welcome back to Recovery Demystified. My name's Early. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. Recovery Demystified is a show where we take a different, more nuanced look at addiction and recovery, and we build from a lens of empowerment. So I'm so happy that you're here. Today I have another interview episode for y'all. It is my friend Emily. I'm really glad Emily came on to tell her story today because I think a lot of people are going to find it quite relatable. She grew up in a chaotic household where one parent had severe addiction and then the other parent was sort of constantly covering for them and minimizing. And I've heard this experience a lot from folks, and it is also really common even through the pain of watching a parent suffer from addiction and being abused as a child and things of that nature. It is still so common for people to get into addiction themselves, and that's what happened to Emily. She started drinking at a young age and smoking a lot of weed. And yeah, her stories about her childhood are like pretty chaotic. And there is several stories about some domestic violence mentioned. So if that's not something you're ready to listen to today, then just please take good care. And the other thing that I think is great about Emily's story is that she's in the questioning phase right now. Like, I would not even necessarily say sober curious. She's just in the phase where she's like, what are these substances actually doing for me? And do they have a place in my life right now? And a lot of what she's questioning is nicotine use. And she still does drink quite a bit and smokes weed. And I feel like a lot of the times that I'm listening to sobriety and like recovery podcasts, they don't give voice to people who are in this phase. And I think it's like a really critical juncture in people's lives. And I'm not in the business of telling people what to do. I don't think everyone like has to get sober or be sober a certain way or anything like that. But I just think it's important for people to have representation and to hear stories that might be relatable to their experience, because a lot of our suffering and addiction is rooted in loneliness. And if you can hear someone tell a story about a position that you're in right now, then it can help dissolve that loneliness. And I just think it's really important to be able to hear a variety of perspectives and different people who are at different points in their journey. So yeah, thank you, Emily, for coming on today. And without further ado, here's our interview. Hello, Emily. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Early, how are you?
I'm doing good. Will you start by introducing yourself to the audience? Let them know your pronouns and just a little bit about yourself.
My name is Emily Triplet. My pronouns are she, her. I am originally from southeastern Arkansas, but I've been living in northwest Arkansas for about 9 years now. I've also lived in Russellville, came here for college, dropped out, as it goes. School wasn't really my thing. So now I just work here, live here, love here,
Hell yeah. Cool. So let's get right into it. Let's do what we came here to do. We are going to talk about your story with addiction and recovery. So let us know what it was like for you to be a little kid, maybe some of your first encounters with alcohol or other substances, kind of when it got bad, and then where you're at today with stuff. So just start wherever you'd like.
So if we're starting from the beginning, my mom was really straight edge, pretty religious. I'd say super religious. I was trying to be nice, I guess. My dad, on the other hand, I didn't know the severity of his use until after he had passed away when I was like 16. But I always knew something was like really off and just like bizarre in the way that he behaved and like where our money went and the arguments him and my mom would have. I knew there was always something. I just didn't know what it was. Turns out later it was like literally anything he could probably get his hands on. But my brothers were the biggest like early on component, I think. I have 2 older brothers. They're quite a bit older than me. They were born, I think, in 82 and 88, and I was born in 97. And so there was a pretty big gap between me and my oldest brother, and then me and my middle brother lived together and like were way closer just because I guess of our age. And they both had a pretty rough time with like pain pills as it goes in like a small rural town where you got a family physician that's like, yeah, here's 60 Xanax, go off. And they both like had sustained injuries that kind of like, I guess, got them the prescription. And then that turned to them finding other ways to get those pills. And that was like off and on, like even still to this day sometimes. Like I think my middle brother that I'm closer to, I think has relapsed a couple times over the last 10 years or so. But it was really bad when I was younger. I mean, like trying to talk to them and they're nodding off on the couch, or like you think they're watching you play video games and you turn around and they're asleep with a lit cigarette and their sheets are on fire. And that was just kind of like my intro to it. And my mom was always like a big proponent of like villainizing them for it versus like getting them help and compassion. And I think I saw the way that she made it look and also turned that and was like very villainizing against them in that time. Even at a young age, I was low-key kind of spiteful. And I would just say shit to like hurt my brothers or my dad, because that's what I saw between my parents' relationship. They were not super loving. And when they were, it was almost like conditional, or it was almost like, to make up for something. It was like my dad got really drunk and threw my brother through the third window this week last night. So yeah, he's going to buy you flowers tomorrow. And like maybe y'all will be really affectionate for a week or two, and he's going to not drink for a week or two, and then it's just going to go back, That was like... He was sober from the time that I was born until around like 4 or 5. And then from what my mom has told me, it's just like he just started drinking again one day. And he thought he could do it in like moderation. He thought he could be chill with it. And then it just escalated to the nightmare that was like middle school and early high school for me.
So your whole family lived together? They were like not divorced?
No. So my oldest brother moved out because he was like 17 years older than me. He moved out by the time that I was like 2 or 3 and had a marriage, and they had their own place, but we were all still in the same town. And then me and my middle brother, my mom and my dad all lived together. And technically they did get divorced, but he died 6 months later and the paperwork was never filled out by him. So she's technically a widow, but she did file for divorce at the very tail end of it. I was like 15, and I think my mom, it got so scary. Like as I got older and I got like a worse mouth about me, I was really antagonistic, and my mom was the same. Honestly, we both kind of fed into, he's been a dick all our lives, we might as well start being a dick back. But in that, he started getting a lot more violent, especially with both of us, in like scary ways with like guns. I mean, I'll never forget, it was like 9th grade. Maybe even 8th grade, and it was the morning before school, and we only had one car for the whole family. So like my brother and my dad worked together, my mom worked at one place, and then I had to go to school. So we dropped them off, and then I go with my mom to work for like an hour, and then I go to school. And we're all getting ready. It's early as fuck. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I like barely have gotten the eye boogers out of my eyes. And this man walks into the living room with his whole chest and says, "I walked through the house last night, and I could have ended it all." He said, "I walked through with the revolver and I chose not to. And I want y'all to be thankful for that." And then went and sat in the car until we all got ready.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm like going to school like, "Hey guys, band practice, like let's go." I never really like told a lot of my friends about it. Or even, I mean, some people at my church knew, but that was because we had to live there. We had a house fire. I'm jumping all over the place, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But we had a house fire and we had to live in the church. And living in a church doesn't just make your dad not abusive anymore. So he was still drinking and being insane in the church. He fell down a flight of stairs in the church, got really fucked up one night and like pissed on the side of the church and was like, "Yeah, take that, God." And we're like inside just like, Jesus Christ, I hope nobody hears this.
You were living in an actual church building? It
was like in the attic of the gymnasium of like the fellowship hall of a church. They had like a little emergency respite for whenever people like when your house burned down or if you come on hard luck, they had like bunk beds and air mattresses where like they would like let you stay. And we had a house fire that put all 4 of us out and we all still needed to work. And there were 2 bunk beds and 2 air mattresses. And my parents slept on the bottom bunk, me on the top, and my brother on one of the air mattresses for about, I think, a month or 2.
And was there other people around to like hold him accountable for that behavior at all, or were you just kind of on your own?
Besides us, no. Like for a big majority of my life, I mean, I might be like not remembering a few like integral people, of course. But like when this man died, there were people at his funeral being like, "Oh, he'd give you the shirt off his back. Like he was such a nice guy. We're gonna miss you, Charles." All this stuff. And it's like, okay, but he also like beat the fuck out of us. Like you can't sit here and be like competing for who's gonna be the pallbearer at his funeral And then, like, his family sitting in the front, like, just so shell-shocked by it all. It was low-key, like, whenever I found out he died, of course it was sad, because, like, I mean, he had gone through so much, he had been through so much, and at one point he was my father, and I was, like, a daddy's girl, and all this stuff. But when he died, it was low-key, like, I can, like, sleep. I can, like, get some of probably the best rest I've had in my whole life. Like, it was, and it felt, I had to, like, deal with that a lot throughout my early 20s of, like, the guilt, I guess, of, like, figuring out everything that had happened to him as a child and realizing how that perpetuated the way that he treated his actual family. He had a terrible upbringing. I mean, like, it's just, and then finding all of that out later and not being able to humanize him while he's still here. Like, I grew up all my life just really pointing a finger, and of course, I should have. He was not a good father. I mean, but it's just like learning all of these things that give you some really important context when it's too late to talk about really sat with me for a long time. When it was like, damn, we could have said some shit about this. We could have, like, smoked a joint together on the carport and, like, talked this out. But, like, you kind of robbed all of us of any opportunity. Because anytime we tried to say some, like, real shit, like, you're just mad your mother and father left you, and that's why you can't be grateful for the family that you created because you're looking for the family you never had. But then that spurs a whole argument and fist fight and gunfight, and the police are called, and then it's like, you just don't talk about that shit anymore. You just let it go. You just want to have a normal Wednesday, you know?
Totally. Yeah, it's like, it's really complex, the experience with, like, being abused, because I think basically every single time someone becomes an abuser, they have a dark past. Like, there's very few people who are just, like, born a psychopath. Like, it's always, like, a cycle of abuse, a continuation of pain. And when you love them, it's, like, really confusing. Like, it's your parent. Sometimes it's the person we're dating or a different loved one. And it's, like, it's confusing and it's weird. It's like there is love there, but then there's also a ton of pain. And yeah, I definitely understand the feeling of, like, I wish we could have talked about this, but then also knowing that if we did talk about it, it would probably just blow up and perpetuate the same pattern.
Exactly.
Yeah. So did you understand, like, when you were a kid that it was substances that were, like, affecting his behavior, or was it just like, this is just how my dad is?
It was a little bit of both, because honestly, he was severely mentally ill. Like, he would act the same off of two beers as he would off of 15. I think he just needed an excuse to kind of, like, let shit go sometimes. And when I tell you mentally ill, I mean speaking in tongues when he was not that kind of religion at all. He was raised Catholic. Like, what are you doing speaking in tongues, bro? He would get drunk and just start, like, hissing, spitting on things. I remember he used to like to play Zombies, which was this game where he would just go outside and flip the breakers on the house and give me a flashlight. And then come in the house and be, like, crawling around backwards like the Exorcist.
Oh my gosh.
And he would be like hissing at me and shit. And that was, like, our version of playing Zombies. And then I would just go outside and, like, build a lean-to about a mile away in the woods behind our house and stay there until dinner. And then come back and my mom would be like, I turned the breakers back on. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Did you get any, like, compassion or understanding from your mother about it? Like, what was her reaction to all of that chaos?
So in the beginning, yes, it was very much felt like it was like me, her, and my brother, like, versus my dad, you know? It very felt that way. But then as we got older, there was, like, a lot more nuances of, like, my brother leaving the house more, getting more addicted to pills and not being around. So it fell on me and my mom to take a brunt of it. Because I was younger, I was like, I mean, by the time that I was 14, my middle brother was, like, 24, 23. So, like, he was able to leave a lot more readily than I was. Like, none of my friends had cars yet, really. And if we did, it was, like, very limited on what we could do, where we can go. He would just dip off to Little Rock and be like, I'm out of here. And then, like, sometimes I would have to call him while he was gone with his friends and be like, hey, you've got to come back. Like, I can't do this. Daddy's being way too much. But me and my mom had a little bit of a more complicated relationship as I got older, just because I felt like she, like, remembers things not as bad as they were, and then makes me feel bad for remembering how bad they were. And it's like, yeah, like, you dealt with a lot more. You were with him for 30 years. I don't know if you want a badge or, like, I'm sorry. But, like, you chose to bring, I always low-key kind of resented her because I was like, he was beating my brothers before I was even born. And it was kind of an accident that I was born, and of course in her religious belief and the time it was in Arkansas, I guess, like, you know, any kind of like emergency contraceptive was not an option. Mm-hmm. So like she just kind of had to have me whenever she was like 38. But like I always just resented being brought into that. I was like, you guys knew what this was, and you still chose to procreate and like bring somebody in. And that's like one of my biggest pet peeves nowadays is people that I guess choose to have a child willingly with a person who they know is not set up to have a child. And I guess I can't like always judge because things happen, but I don't know, I just resented her a lot for that. And then also resented her for staying. I was like, you stayed with him until the literal very end. And like you left barely by the edge of your seat. And he was pulling guns on us like every week, and you finally filed for divorce. Then he dies. And now you have to like help your mom grieve a man that you hated. Meanwhile, she spent majority of her life with him. You understand that must be really sad, really hard. He died alone. We left. We moved out in those 6 months. So he died just in a house that used to be our family home, by himself in the hallway. And that was really hard, I guess, like you feel like you abandoned a person, but then you feel like they also pushed you away with a 10-foot pole. It's like, shit, what was I supposed to do, dude, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's never wrong to leave an abusive situation. You know, you're not like responsible for caring for someone who's like actively causing you harm. Was there ever periods of like it seemed like things were maybe getting better?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
He loved to do that. He would be like, I'm getting sober. I'm going to get help. I'm going to go to church. And he would put on, you know, the nice button-up shirt that he owned, the one, and then like the least holy pair of pants, and come with us for, you know, a couple of weeks, and then it would just always taper off. I mean, I know that there were probably stints where it lasted some months, and that was awesome, but it's like a lot harder to remember those because of how much of it was like just obstructed by his behavior. And so like I view the good times as almost like little blips. Like I'm sure there were, whenever I was younger, I'm sure that we had like a great 3 months at like Magic Springs or some bullshit, you know, like on a family vacation, and he didn't drink, and it was awesome. But like it's hard to even like really, I don't know, give too much salt to those because they were all performative. He just wanted us to get comfortable again, I feel like, because he knew that he if he went too hard too fast, we would leave. So it was just like a very slow burn of like, I'm getting better, I'm not. I'm getting better, I'm not. And that culminated to her finally leaving. And I genuinely think his heart just couldn't handle it. He just fell out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He had a stroke. So, I mean, he literally, I guess, kind of he couldn't take it. But yeah, no, my mom and I's relationship is definitely a little complicated just because she is still hyper-religious and like has told me that she, I guess, like, the one joy in her life would see me going back to the Lord and see me going to church again and all these things. And I've tried to talk to her about, like, I do believe there is a higher power, and I do believe there is a reason for a lot of things, and I do believe there is something that's, like, working for us, not against us sometimes. But I don't think that's big capital G, white God. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that, but she, like, literally thinks that she's going to die and I'm going to be going to hell whenever, like, she wants to see me saved, I guess, before she dies. And so, like, yeah, we text every day, but we, like, talk about the weather and our day and what we ate kind of thing. We don't really go too deep, because I have tried to talk to her before, and like I said, it just normally comes back to her being like, well, that was your father, and well, that didn't happen like that. It wasn't that, like, just her trying to, like, reframe my memories, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but these are mine. Like, and instead of, like, refuting them and, like, making, damn near gaslighting me, maybe you could just hear me, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe you just listen.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into, like, just listening to someone and understanding that their perspective is going to be different from yours. I feel like I am wondering, because I feel like it is such a pattern with people that are, like, deeply involved with abusers, and it's oftentimes, like, the mom who's, like, gaslighting the kid about, like, well, it didn't happen like that. Like, your story, I'm just like, I feel like I've heard this so many times, and in my mind, I'm like, does the mom really believe what she's saying in all of these instances? Like, or is her experience that much different than the kid in all of these stories? Or is she kidding herself. You know what I mean?
I think that a lot of it comes from, in my case specifically, pride. Whenever your kid is going to school and saying things like "daddy hits me" or "daddy has a gun," that's embarrassing for you.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing for you. Now everybody knows, and everybody's going to talk about it in the Piggly Wiggly, and everybody's going to know your business at the Dollar General, and people at church are going to whisper when you bring trouble. It's like, I think for her, it was more of an appearance thing. It was like, she doesn't want it to be that bad, so she's going to do everything in her power to make it seem better than it is. Because it was already embarrassing enough. We had the cops called to our house probably at least twice a month when I was growing up. Like, everybody knew that, like, oh, the triplets were a rowdy bunch, and, you know, some small town shit like that. But yeah, I think a big part of hers came from just like not wanting everyone to know. She wanted to handle it by herself, and unfortunately I think I kind of inherited that from her. I'm pretty stubborn and can be not like the most honest person when it comes to like my discomforts, or if I'm like needing help and assistance, I'll usually wait until the very last moment to say that. But yeah, I think for her it might just help her sleep at night to remember it different.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I know you said your brothers were both into a lot of pills. Was there what time in your life did you first start dabbling with substances? So
I started really slow because like I think I had seen what it was doing to my family, and I needed to be that person who could like, I guess, almost throw it back in their face and be like, well, I'm not doing this shit. You were doing this shit when you were my age and I'm not. And so I didn't really smoke weed until I was like 18 or 19, but I will say I had been drinking heavily since I was like 14. I used to go to parties, and like when your parents are, you know, waging it out like it's a WWE match in your backyard, they don't really care where you go on the weekends. So I usually would just go off with some friends and be like, oh, I'm staying at so-and-so's house. We'll wake up in a field the next day after a big bonfire, clutching a bottle of Burnett's, and somebody put a blanket on me. And then I ride home, and then or just go back to somebody else's house, you know, get pizza, shit like that. But I was drinking heavily from a pretty young age.
Do you remember the first time you drank?
Oh, let's see. I think, honestly, one of the first times I remember drinking, this may not be like the first time, but one of the first times I remember was honestly probably at this guy's house that I went to high school with, who, story for another day, this guy's now a registered sex offender. But he used to hold a lot of parties at his house. And I was there with my childhood groomer, who should also be a registered sex offender. And I would think I was like 14 or 15 at the time, and he was like 19, 20. And we were all just like getting hammered. And his mom had like set up this shed as like a studio sort of thing, and it had couches in it and shit. And we all just crashed in there. And I just remember getting really drunk and like, I really don't even remember a lot of it. I just remember like starting fires. We like lit one of his dad's hay bales in the back on fire, and we put boat gas on it because it wasn't getting started enough for us, so we put gas on it. But it was just like a lot of drinking to black out, and then also a lot of, I think I used my sexuality from a young age more than a substance really, because I also like started having sex at the age of 14 with men that were quite a bit older than me, not really like in my grade at all kind of stuff. And that helped me, I guess, get validation in a way from a man that I wasn't getting the typical like, oh, her daddy issues. Like I did have daddy issues, and in that I was hypersexual because I just wanted a man to listen to me. And I felt like a man's approval and a man's validation at that time was very important, because it was something that I was not even lacking. I was getting the complete opposite of. I was getting like a man's anger and a man's hate. So I just wanted somebody to be nice to me, even if that meant they were using me. And they definitely had a girlfriend their own age, and they just like to fuck on a 14-year-old creep.
Honestly, relatable.
But it worked on me at the time. They saw a very vulnerable girl with a bad home life, and they knew that she'd really be down to do whatever. And I was. And it was awesome at the time, but like now looking back on it, it was just like, oh, baby, get out of there.
Yeah, it's like, I definitely, like what you're saying is, it mirrors my own experience as a very young teenager as well. And yeah, it can be both consensual and not right.
Right,
at the same time.
There we go. Yeah, it's like it was consensual, but like my frontal lobe hadn't fully formed, and like saying it was consensual from a 14-year-old's point of view, I feel like, is not exactly the consent you should want.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the adult's position at that point to be like, this is not right.
Exactly. Yeah. And then like I said, I'd been drinking from a young age, and then I smoked weed for the first time out of a Faygo bottle with like an aluminum foil bowl made into the side of it in the woods outside of like one of my friends' houses out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, absolute middle of nowhere. And we had gotten this guy to come out to her house with like an eighth of the most shit weed you've ever seen in your life. I mean, it was like dust. It was like, it was like disintegrating under my fingers. And I was like, dude, was this your grandpa's? Like, did you find this in like your grandpappy's box or something? And then we smoked it, and I was like, this is okay. I didn't really start smoking weed until like about a year or two after that. So I was a freshman in college here in Fayetteville in 2016, and my drinking actually got kind of fucking insane at that point, my freshman year here. I had been to parties, but like no more than like, so-and-so was watching his grandma's house this weekend. But like this one was like full-on Project X fucking frat parties. And, I had some friends, and like we all thought we looked good, we'd go out. But it turned into just being a bender. Like, I mean, I think that I spent probably majority of that. I was only here for 6 months in 2016, because it was just so much. I was like not going to my classes. I just wanted to get fucked up. And then I was like, no, I'm going to go to Russellville. I'm going to go to ATU. It's cheaper. I'll get paid to go there. It'll be better. Then I go there, and the same thing kind of happens, but everybody there is just kind of low-key nerdy. They're not really having the same parties they were having up here. And I was like, damn, these people sit around and watch Adventure Time and drink like a frozen daiquiri and then go home. It's not really lit. And so I started smoking more weed, and because a lot of my friends were more potheads at that time. And then also a couple of people that worked with my roommate got fired for selling weed, or they got kicked out of their house for selling weed, and so they had to move in with us. So there were like 6 people living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and 2 of them sold weed. And so in that, I mean, we were just smoking blunts on blunts on blunts on blunts. And I had gone from like not really smoking ever before to like, boom, you're rolling up every like 2 hours to just smoke weed. And that was like probably the heaviest I really smoked weed like that, just because I think it was more performative. It was like, oh, it looks cool, I'm smoking a blunt, But I've smoked weed since then, really. But never to that capacity, never to just like where I am rolling up a 2-gram blunt 3 times a day kind of thing.
Were you were still in college at that point?
I was for a little bit. So whenever I transferred to ATU, that was the winter, that was like January semester of 2017. So I had moved from Fayetteville, stayed with my mom for a couple of weeks, which that was awesome. While I was like waiting in the in-between period, she really didn't approve, I guess, of me being friends with a lot of gay people in Fayetteville. I remember telling her that 2 of my best friends were lesbian at the time, and she said, and I quote, "I would rather find out you're pregnant and don't know who the father is than find out that you're a lesbian."
Oh my goodness.
She said, "I'd rather you have a bastard-ass baby than be gay." I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. But then, yeah, so I went to Russellville, and that was like the beginning of 2017. Wait, what was I saying?
I was just asking about, like, if you were enrolled in college or not.
Oh, yes,
like,
I would, yes, that's what it was.
Did you fail out of Fayetteville? Like,
I did not fail out of Fayetteville. I just quit going. So I had good grades when I quit going, but then I got I's for incompletes. And then I went to ATU. Wait, no, I had pretty good grades because they still allowed me to go to ATU and keep my scholarships. It was ATU where I got the incompletes because I literally just stopped going to drop out. I just didn't enroll again. And that was, I went to Voodoo Fest in New Orleans in like October. So I've been going to ATU January through October. Went to Voodoo Fest and just had a great time. And at that festival, I was like, I'm not going back to college when I get back. I was like, dude, I'm like having such a good time. And then like going back to school is looming over my head so hard. I'm like, dude, I remember looking at my roommate. I was like, I'm not going back to college when we get back to Russellville. She's like, shit, dude, okay, I don't give a fuck. But
so you had scholarships and everything. So I just want to back it up a little because you said your childhood is so deeply chaotic and you were drinking like pretty heavily in high school, but you were still...
I had great grades. I was like 14th out of 75 people, and there was a tie for like 13th, 14th, 15th, so we all had the same GPA. But I mean, I had enough scholarships that I came to Fayetteville and only had to pay, I think, $5,000 out of what I guess like 27,000 it was at that time. So I had enough scholarships to cover about 22 of that. And then ATU is significantly cheaper. So whenever I transferred to ATU, I think I was getting paid like $4,000 a semester to do it. I just hated schoolwork. And my brother was the same way. My brother made a 32 on his ACT and never went to college. He just wanted to do it to say he did it. And it's just like, we were really good at like the books and the reading and the writing and that kind of stuff, but we're just not very good with the traditional like routine of it all. I just hated waking up and having to go to school, and it really, I guess, wasn't that bad. I'm making it sound a lot worse than it was. Maybe I was just an angry 19-year-old, and I was like, fuck school, I don't want to go anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't really regret it, because I feel like that choice led me to be where I am today, and I'm very grateful for where I am today. And also, I feel like I would probably be in a very similar spot, even if I did complete, because I was going to get, like, a degree in creative writing and journalism. Because I thought, I guess you can go to college to be Anthony Bourdain. It don't turn out like that.
Yeah, that might just be part privilege and part luck.
Yeah, for real. And just like, I mean, you just got to be Anthony Bourdain, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just didn't really see, like, a great, super lucrative job coming from that, aside from being, like, a ghostwriter for, like, articles and shit.
Word. Did you have any, like, negative repercussions throughout, like, high school and those couple of stints in college while you were hitting it so hard?
Negative repercussions as in like hangovers, yes, and then also a lot of people that I thought were my friends would tell their parents like, oh, Emily goes drinking and Emily is having sex and all this stuff. So there were some people whose parents told them that they couldn't hang out with me anymore. The police records in DeWitt, of course, are public, and so a lot of people would see that like my dad got arrested on a domestic battery or something. I don't actually think he ever got arrested. They would just see that the police like came to our house and be like, you don't need to go over to Emily's. You don't need to go over to that house. So I didn't really have sleepovers until I was like probably after my sophomore year, after my dad died. And then we had a spot that it was just me, my mom, and James. And so in that, I started having more sleepovers at that place. But my childhood home, like the repercussions of like, oh, I think you mean my repercussions of my alcoholism too.
I mean, it's all tied together.
Yeah, for sure. It was just like a lot of people were telling their kids to not hang out with me, or like some of the teachers could even like tell, like I would come in smelling like cigarettes, whether they be my family's or my own, and they would be like, you don't need to be smoking cigarettes, you're in high school. Or like I was in band too. I remember my band director used to always be like, you're not going to be able to play the trumpet if you keep smoking cigarettes. And I was like, shut up, dude. Like I'm going to smoke my cigarettes and play this solo.
At any point during like high school or the college part that you've touched on so far, were you like the drinking and the smoking weed is like harming me, or were you just like, this is saving my life, or did you not think about it very much? I feel like I definitely knew it was harming me, especially with the alcohol. I don't think I've ever really villainized nicotine that much in my life, which it's a terrible drug. I know I should, but alcohol was always kind of like a damn bitch, you gotta chill out. But I would always have those moments when your face is in the toilet bowl, you know, and you're feeling like, I guess, like the guilt and the shame of it all. Be like, you gotta quit drinking, and then you wake up the next day and you do it again, kind of thing. But I've definitely had some moments like where, yeah, like my alcoholism has gotten a little bit out of hand. I've never stopped, but I've definitely backed off, because I know like, especially like 2 years ago, I was drinking so bad. I had just gotten out of a pretty rough relationship and was like living by myself for a little while before I met Charlie. And I was like blacking out like every night. But on top of that, I was also on antidepressants for a little bit at that time. And I mean, I was on sertraline, and it was like you could drink 2 beers and felt like you just had 7 shots. Or you could drink 6 beers and not feel like anything. It was just kind of like a roll of the dice. And a lot of those times I would be in public and just be like, okay, I'm going to get an Uber home now. Can somebody drive my car? And that was like a pretty rough patch where I was like, okay, this is actually like affecting like my health. I'm not really like showing up for my friends in the way that I want to. I'm not really being the person that I want to be, you know, with like just being fucked up all the time. And then like I'm not fun when I'm hungover. It's just like you just like live your life on like this little lag button, kind of feeling like you're in slow-mo. Yeah. What happened in between Russellville and coming back here? Like, what age were you then? I
was like 20. Yeah, I was like 19 or 20. I turned 2020 in December of 2017, and I moved back here in February of 2018. My roommate at the time was a girl who was from my hometown. Actually, we had known each other for a long time, and she had moved there because her mom had gotten a new boyfriend in Russellville. But whenever I came there for college, she was like, "Oh my God, girl, like, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "No, you too, like, what's going on?" We wound up getting an apartment together, and this is the apartment that I mentioned that we had like 6 people living in a 2-bed. After the 4 other people that had moved in with us moved out, it was just me and her again, but she started doing, I suspect she was doing like meth or something, because like she was just gone all the time, and she would like bring these old ass dudes into our apartment, just people that I'd like never met before, and she'd be like, "Yeah, these are my friends." She worked at a bar in Dardanelle, and it just got to where there was so many people coming and going, and I think she owed me some money. I was like, "Hey, I'm moving back to Fayetteville. This fucking sucks." And she got really mad at me for like a week or so, and then I was literally gone within like 2 weeks of telling her that. And I do kind of feel a little bad because she got evicted from that apartment because she couldn't pay for it. Sorry about that one. But I had to get out of there because otherwise I was just about to be either drugged down with her, forced to live in Russellville. And Russellville just wasn't really like that fun. It was not even fun. There's just like, it felt like a bigger version of my hometown. You know, it just felt like a big DeWitt. And so I loved Fayetteville because it didn't feel like anywhere else in Arkansas. And that's, I think, what always kind of pulled me back. That, and I've always had an amazing community here. I've found lifelong friends here, genuinely. And yeah, I just kind of dipped out like a thief in the night. Like I packed all my shit up real quietly and then got a friend from Fayetteville, I think, to come down here and get like my bed and anything that was like larger. But yeah, I was basically like, "Peace out, dude. I can't fucking do this. Have fun." And then I came back up here and I slept on my beautiful sweet friend Maria Mariscal's couch for about a month. My sweet friend Sarah watched my cats in Russellville because I couldn't bring them yet. Then I went back and got them, got my own apartment, and I've been here since.
How have things changed for you after you decided at that festival you didn't want to go back to college, and then you up and moved back to Fayetteville because Russellville sucked? Yeah, what happened after that? How did it change?
I feel like things have just kind of fallen into place, like slowly but surely. I've been through some bullshit, of course. You kind of get dipped off on side quests, as you do. But, like, at the end of the day, I think in the last, like, 2 to 3 years of my life, I've just, like, felt such a safety and, like, a comfort that I don't think I've really ever had the chance to know. I spent so much of the beginning of my life in kind of survival mode. I don't know really how long I spent after my dad died in that survival mode. I think a lot of the relationships I formed up until the time that I was like 24 were kind of in response to things that I lacked as a child, or they were in response of the way that I had internalized a lot of the things that had happened to me as a child. I feel like a lot of the destructive relationships I've had pre-Charlie were like, they all kind of made sense. Like, I can see what you're looking for, bitch, but you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it in that. It's not going to be there. And then by some miracle, I find some sweet angel baby man.
We love him.
We love him.
Will you talk a little bit more about what you mean about the past relationships, like what you thought you were looking for and what you weren't getting?
I was always just looking for someone who just, like, unconditionally loved me, you know, just like really wanted to stand by me. I had been cheated on by so many people, and even my childhood groomer was like dating other women his age, like in front of me. And I'd always just had this super like inferiority complex. I felt very insecure for so long, and that really showed in the men that I chose to date, because I also dated super insecure, just like manipulative men, and one of them of which, oh my God, I forget about this dude sometimes. He literally like recorded a video of us getting intimate and then posted it on Pornhub without my permission, and then also sent it in like a group message with like 3 other women in it, and they were all like, "Oh, that bitch looked funny. Oh, why her back looked like that." And then I like woke up with like a gut feeling and went through his phone, and I see all that, and he literally still had Pornhub open.
Oh my
And I was
God.
like, "Thanks for your upload. We'll be reviewing it soon." And I said, "Oh, what the fuck?" And then I go to his Snapchat, because he had a bunch of Snapchats in this group message. And sure enough, he had sent that video in there, and then some of these bitches were sending videos of them having sex with their boyfriend's back. And I was like, what in the damn Jeffrey Epstein is going on in here? Y'all are putting like videos in this group message without your partner's consents, and you're just like examining each other's bodies. It was so weird. That dude was a menace. And then I went back to him. I even went back to him one time. And, like, I think that was another thing, is that I always went back to shitty men because I saw how long my mom stuck it out. I was like, well, he's not beating me, and he's not holding me at gunpoint. Like, how bad can it be? And for a long time, that was kind of like a weird, fucked up rationalization that I had, where it was like, verbal abuse really ain't that bad, you know? It's like, shit, I've had worse, you know? It's like, which is terrible, because, like, now I wouldn't tolerate any of it. But, like, looking back, and just the way that I let some of these little, I don't know, just, like, angry men speak to me, because that's how my angry man father spoke to me, you know? It's like, you just, like, allow stuff for so long. But then one day you wake up and you don't anymore, and it kind of rocks when you don't do that anymore. Because I think back on all the times that I, like, cried and begged a man to stay with me when I should have hit him in the face, truthfully. He just needed a good sock to the jugular. But
I'm, like, currently obsessed with the concept of attachment theory, which has to do with how our parents treat us as kids and how that forms our relationships later in life. And unfortunately, it is like it's like the pattern.
It's the thing.
It's like, the pattern where you seek out the person who is like your parent.
Yes.
And then your brain tries to recreate it where it's okay now.
Yeah.
But if you're seeking out that type of person, it simply will not be okay now.
No, it's like literally, it's like, bitch, you think it'll be okay when you find it, but you found it already and it wasn't okay then. So what do you mean? It's like, it's like a whole thing.
But it's so deep in your psyche. It's so deep in your brain. And when you have no awareness of it, you're just experiencing attraction.
No,
you just follow the attraction.
You're just like, oh, I like you. But then, because like in that moment, you're not being like, why do I like you? Like, what is it about you that I am truthfully like looking into?
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're hot. That's enough. Yeah.
Yeah, which it's even weirder when it works out where it's like, oh, you look kind of like my dad. And then you think that, like, if you realize later that they look kind of like your dad, and you're like, oh, that's why I thought they were hot. Ew. No.
Bro, the human brain, sometimes I'm like,
you sick fuck. I'm just like, why would you do that?
Twisted. Were substances involved in any of those relationships?
A lot of alcohol, and more so, I guess I wasn't really like drinking super heavily from like 22 to 24-ish. And then my boyfriend before Charlie, we drank all the time. I mean, there was like constantly a 30 rack in the fridge, if not two. We were going out a lot. There was also like, you know, liquor and stuff. And I think that a big reason why I liked the person I liked before Charlie so much is because he reminded me of my dad. He would drink, but he was like my dad in a good way. He would get drunk and get kooky and be fun and be silly and be like the life of the party because he was drunk. But then sometimes he can get drunk and he can be mean. And I would overlook those mean times for the kooky, super fun, silly times. And there were times where he like would make a mess and destroy his kitchen on purpose and be like, oh, Emily's my maid, she'll clean it up. Don't worry, you guys, you can throw whatever you want on the floor.
Oh my God.
Or like just like go into a room or like say something to his friends and be like, oh, watch this is gonna really piss her off, and then come say something to me and it pisses me off and he thinks it's funny. I was telling Elise the other day about this guy. I don't know, I think I had told her this before, but she didn't remember, and I was telling her, I was like, there was one time that I was literally crying. I was so angry. I don't even remember what he did. And I was just crying at him, like, why? Like, what the fuck is your problem? And he's pointing and laughing at me.
Oh my
he's
God.
like, haha, little baby, cry, you crying? Like, he's like laughing at me. And then, that made me so angry. I've never like actually thought about like domestic violence against one of my partners in the moment, but like something so visceral about like being in such a vulnerable position that you were sobbing to someone because they upset you and they hurt your feelings and they did something really mean, and they have the audacity to laugh at you in your face. It's just like that made me genuinely want to sock him. And like I'm so glad I never did, because that, you know, good on me. But there were a couple of times where I genuinely think it almost was warranted. It's like he almost wanted me to. but I never did.
That's super freaking evil. I'm so sorry.
Well, and he wasn't a bad person. That's the thing, is that I don't think that my partner before Charlie is like an inherently bad person. I think that he also has his own things, you know, and I think that also I was very complicit in that. We low-key brought out the worst in each other, because a lot of my mom came out in that relationship because he reminded me so much of my dad. So if we were having a good night, I'd find something to get pissed about, or I would find something to like bring up, and I'd be like, well, I'm mad about this now, so what are you gonna, like, there were a lot of times where it wasn't just him. So like I've tried to like remind myself of this in the same way that I try to remind myself of my parents' relationships. It wasn't necessarily just my dad. He was a terrible father and abusive and awful and put my mom in a really bad headspace to where she was also in turn very antagonistic, very insightful, very spiteful, and would say hurtful things on purpose, of course, as a product of her environment, but like she could have said other things. You know, it's like there were a lot of times where I could have definitely handled an argument between us differently, but I had been beaten down or broken down emotionally, for so long that it just put me in like well, fuck you, I'll argue too. Like, and so, yeah, that was definitely not just like a him or me situation. It was like a both of us, I think, definitely just brought out the absolute most inner menace in each other. And I think we just kind of commiserated about that. And it was really hard to leave that relationship for that reason. It was almost like we had trauma bonded over how hard we had fought and argued and shit. It just kind of felt like, damn, like, I remember us sitting on the couch when we were breaking up and we were like, this is going to really suck, isn't it? We just looked at each other like both like crying. We're like, this is going to be really hard. And we're like, yeah, it is going to be really hard. And then it happened, and it was perfect, and it was fine. And now I moved out of that house, and I live in the apartment that I love and share with Charlie. And it all worked out. And now if I can go back and give that guy a kiss on his forehead and thank him for sending me Charlie's way, I would.
Yeah. It's like there can still be a lot of love even within like difficult or like abusive or whatever situations. And it's hard to leave and let go of it, and that makes a lot of sense to me. But the cool thing is that even if it is hard and you're going to miss some things about the person, you're opening up like a new space that someone else can treat you better within.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if you're not going to do it, bro, just get down. Like, let somebody else get up here and do it then. It's like, and same for him. I obviously was not helping out my past partner in that relationship. I was not being who he wanted me to be, for better or for worse, and I was not helping him in any of the problems that he had. I was just exacerbating them. And so it just seems like it worked out. It just makes so much more sense. It's like, if this is not fucking working, then it's not going to work. You gotta rip the Band-Aid off.
Right. So it's obvious to me now that you've done quite a bit of self-reflection in your life and like healing and growth. Do you go to the therapist? Like, where did you get all that from?
Unfortunately for me, I have been so psychoanalytical from such a young age in ways that I didn't even understand when I was younger. Before this, coming in here, I literally got all of my journals. I have 4 different books spanning from 2004 to today of just my life. And a lot of it was stupid, of course, because I was like 6 when I started them. And it'd be like, I ate a popsicle today, about to watch Freddy versus Jason, goodbye. Like, that would be my intros. But like, some of them were like very much like telling of my environment. Like, some of them were like, I don't like hanging out with daddy, me and mom are just gonna hang out today, stuff like that. And just going through and seeing how I've been so, especially into like high school and college years, seeing how I've just always been very like, why did this happen? I want to know the why. I have to know the why. And just being so, I analyze every emotion before I even like feel that I show it, almost to a fault sometimes, where it's like, instead of just letting a feeling happen, I have to be so, well, why did X, Y, and Z make me feel this way? And how can I make this feeling not feel this? It's just like, I've just always kind of seen it. It's just kind of always been, once I especially got to like 21, 22, I just started to really see how like my familial like relationship with my whole family affected who I am and the way that I hold my relationships and the space I hold for them. And I did a lot of like unearthing of all of that. I feel like between like 20 and 20 now, really 20 to now, I'm still unearthing shit, and dealing with like just random feelings of things that I haven't felt in a long time. But you just kind of like learn how to equip yourself. And I feel like I've always unfortunately just had a really good rein on my brain and kind of known just like why things worked out the way they did. And it just like I make it my mission almost to like figure out why shit happens.
Right. So a lot of it is like journaling and then self-analytical. Like, there's not like a therapist, or you're not out there like reading books or whatever.
Right. I went to therapy twice, and the first time, the lady was very religion-based, and that's where a lot of my trauma comes in. I was raised Southern Baptist all my life. My grandparents built the church that I lived in for a little while. But like, yeah, I just like couldn't do with like a super religion-based therapist. And then the other time was through BetterHelp, and I found out that my therapist was a TERF, and so I canceled my subscription with her because she said something like super J.K. Rowling-esque transphobic, and I was like, oh, and we are done.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, I already had 3 sessions with you. Why didn't you say that in the beginning, bitch?
It's hard to find a good one.
And what's crazy is I'm pretty sure like on BetterHelp back then they had like a thing where you could like talk to like a LGBTQ plus friendly like therapist. And I'm like, well, this bitch slipped through the cracks.
Damn.
But those were the only 2 times I ever really tried therapy, and none of them I feel like were like long enough to like really help me in a lot of stuff. I think I sought both of them out for relationships. At the time, I was like going through it with boys, and that was why I went to the therapist. It was never about my childhood, like the shit that actually matters.
So where is your growth sprouting from? Like, is it just the journaling and self-reflection, or are there other things? I don't even
journal that much. I think that I've just like recently, dog, like I just really feel like I've been trying to like fall in love with life. Like I've been trying to like find, because it's such a, scary fucking time to be a person in general, much less if you're like a minority like person in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And like it's just the weight of the world is so much, and it's just like I've been trying to find really small ways to like just enchant, I guess, my life, like whether it be the people I surround myself with, the things I do. I've been trying to read more. I honestly like needed to do it. There for a long time I was just drinking. That was like my hobby, was going out to bars, and I still do drink, but I've been trying to like, I don't know, just go do stuff more besides just going to Dixon and sitting at Kingfish for 7 hours.
Yeah, my next question was going to be, throughout this like period of growth and like self-exploration and stuff, how has your relationship to substances changed?
I feel like I still drink. I wouldn't say heavily. I can't really think of the last time that I got like blackout drunk, but I still smoke weed too. I smoke quite a bit of weed, honestly. This like growth period has made me kind of reflect though more on like if they're doing anything for me. I've been talking a lot with Leah Gilbert. She's like a very like pro quit your nicotine advocate, and she's really been trying to help me in like realizing that like, dude, you're not getting anything out of this. It's really just like killing you. And I actually spent time with her and her mother recently, just a few months ago, and between Miss Cindy and Leah, they were really drilling it home in a way that I guess it made me think about quitting nicotine more than I have in a long time. I've got a vape in my pocket right now, but like, but I have been buying the 3% pods. I've been backing down, just thinking about like regulation and just being more mindful of it. It doesn't mean that I got to like stop right now, but I think it's important that I think about it, because a lot of people do it so mindlessly that I think if I think about it enough, I'll quit. Like if I like get to the point where it just sucks, because my parents smoked inside, my mom smoked her entire pregnancy. I'm convinced that there's Marlboros in my blood. And so quitting nicotine has been the one thing that like I haven't tried to do since I started smoking nicotine at like 15. I worked at the small town Sonic, and the only way to get a break is if you smoke Camel Crushes. And so I would have them buy me Camel Crushes. And yeah, that's just kind of how that started. And then I just smoked cigarettes forever.
So has your relationship with alcohol and weed changed at all? Like as you're like experiencing healing and growth, like are you still, did it ever feel to you like the alcohol and weed was like burying something? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. I will say I've been thinking about a lot with like alcohol recently, because it's like I used to hate it. I used to vilify it because my dad was like just a monster, and then here I am, like drinking pretty excessively. Like like after work some nights I'll drink like some beers and some shots, kind of shit. But like, and then I also keep a 30 rack in the fridge. Usually there is PBR in my house. But I do believe that for a long time I satiated the need for needing to quit any of them by saying to myself that I'm not as bad as my dad was. I don't have a problem like he did. And I don't have a problem like a lot of other people that I know have a problem. But in that doesn't mean there's not a problem. It's just a different problem. So I have been like entertaining that thought a lot more about like, okay, you may not have a quote unquote capital P problem with alcohol, but like there is a reason that you're drinking it, all the time. Just like, 5 days a week, 4 days a week, there's a reason that you've got to drink. And it's not just like you feel like a social compulsion to do so. It's like there's a reason that you go. There's a reason that you agree. There's a reason that you go and buy those shots. And I think a lot of that is a lot of like what we've talked about today, just like kind of like unpacking a big part of my life that I feel like I really don't talk about anymore, because a lot of the friends that I have here in Fayetteville never knew me when my dad was alive, much less in the time soon after. So like I feel like I don't talk about this stuff a lot more, and in that I forget a lot of things. And then even just going through like my diaries and stuff today, I like remembered a lot of shit that I hadn't remembered, and I feel like alcohol has kind of affected my memory. Blurred the lines chronologically, blurred a lot of stuff for me, and I think that is something too that I haven't really changed my relationship with either of the substances that I still use, but I do definitely entertain the thought more of like, what are these relationships really at their core? Like you like beer, you like tequila, but like at the end of the day, like what is it,
Yeah, I feel like awareness is one of the first steps to like figuring out if or what a problem is at all. And I'm not in the business of telling anyone they have a problem with anything. I think everyone should just do whatever they want whenever they want to do it. But it definitely, like, when you're validating something that might be hurting you by like saying other people do it worse, what I mean?
Yeah, that's like not a good basis. That's not a good basis.
You can always find someone that's worse than whatever you're doing. Sure. But it's just like, yeah, exactly like what you're saying, like becoming curious and being like, wait, why am I doing this? Is it affecting me negatively? How is it affecting me negatively? And like, what do I really want for myself in my life?
Yeah, I think that's been a big thing with it too. It's like, do I see myself in 10 years still smoking cigarettes? Like, do I, like the idealized version of my future, would I want that to revolve around a vape in my hand? Me still having to keep a 30 rack of PBR in the fridge. I understand there's some things that don't change as you get older, but like that's just some of those things that I've thought, are they worth keeping around, at least to the same capacity, and at least play with it, like play with the idea, because I mean, who cares, I guess, if you drink beer all the time like I do, but at the same time, is that really like what you want to be doing all the time?
Yeah, those are really important questions to ask yourself, and you're the only one that knows the answers, or hopefully you get to figure out what the answers are.
Eventually.
Yeah. Was there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
There was one specific story that I did want to tell you that just for the sheer, like, insanity of it. Whenever I was younger, I was probably like 9 or so, and my dad had probably been smoking meth. Now looking back on it, he was just like super jazzed up, amped up, decided he wanted to go deer hunting. He had 2 bullets, and he like went on his 4-wheeler in the woods behind our house, and he is gone for like 30 or so minutes. Me and my mom are sitting on the porch just hanging out, doing whatever. We hear the 4-wheeler coming back, and I look over, and here comes my dad, covered in blood, just absolutely covered in fucking blood, and he's sobbing. I've never seen my dad really cry like that. And he's like freaking out. He's not really talking. We're like, what's wrong? He's like, I missed. I shot it. I didn't kill it though. I shot it, but I didn't kill it. My mom had gotten him, I don't know if you've ever used QVC. It was like an old commercial, what do you call them? Infomercial?
The Home Shopping Network.
Yes, where you could like order random shit. They would always have like Christmas in July deals. Mm-hmm. She bought it.
Call now and you get it 2 extra for $29.99.
I simply just wanted to tell this for the sheer like shock value of it, because I guess like my dad went inside and got this QVC sword that my mom had gotten him for Christmas that kind of looked like the double-hilted horse of the Rohirrim sword from Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. And he took that bitch and he left. And we said, oh, hell no. Like, where is he going with that sword?
All covered in blood.
It's not sharpened. Like, that is a fucking ornament. That is not a war sword, sir. He comes back with this mangled deer head on the front of the 4-wheeler. And the body of it, I think he left in the woods because he couldn't pick it up. But he beheaded this deer. It took him like an hour to behead this deer and then bring it back to us. And he's crying. I think he left it like outside and just went inside and cried and took a shower. I don't even really remember the aftermath of what any of that happened. But I just remember seeing him coming across our yard, just soaked in blood with a beheaded deer. And this fucking, like, QVC sword in his hand, looking like he just came back from, like, straight up, like, the War of Gondor.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, dude, is this real life? Like, did that really just happen?
That is a metaphor for sounds like the entire chaotic experience.
And, like, I could just go on for days about, like, stories like that. There's just so many. But, like, that one was just always so, like, visceral. It was just like, wow. And also, I think it was genuinely one of the first times I saw my dad, like, cry, not in a manipulative way to make people feel bad for him. He was just genuinely sad.
About the deer.
Fucked up about the deer.
Oh,
it's like, how are you going to, like, beat your wife and then cry about a deer? I've never understood that either. It's just like he was so compassionate for, like, nature and, like, animals, and would never beat his animals. I never saw him, but we had so many animals when I was younger because we lived on a highway, so people would just dump them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we would just always have, like, cats, dogs, whatever. And he was never mean. He was always out there checking on them all the time, making sure they had water. He'd sleep in their kennel sometimes. If my mom put him out, he'd sleep with the dogs.
It's the thing about, like, it's so complicated with people who cause harm because, I mean, maybe there's someone out there that's just, like, 100% evil and they're born evil, but it's, like, a lot, it's more often it's complicated.
It's so complicated. And it's like, yeah, no, I've always, like, thought about the duality of that. And my brother's kind of similar, but he's a Gemini, so it kind of makes sense with him. Duality's, like, their whole thing. But, yeah, no, like, when my brother was, like, really messed up on pills, he would do anything, like, steal from my mom's purse. Literally any vile thing he could to get money, to get drugs. But then he would also, like, move beetles off the sidewalk so they didn't get stepped on. It's just, like, the compassion is so limited, but the compassion is so conditional, and it's always strange where people draw their lines, I guess.
Totally.
That was, like, the last thing that I could really think of. But if you have any more questions, too.
Yeah, the last couple things I usually ask people are, what do you think people don't understand about addiction?
Something that I think people don't understand about addiction is that it doesn't have to look bad. Like, I would say I'm an alcoholic. I would fully 100% say that I am an alcoholic right now. But I feel like a lot of my friends, or just people that kind of know me, wouldn't necessarily look at me and say, she's an alcoholic. And it's not always the friend who is just sloppy drunk, falling all over the place, getting kicked out of the bar. Sometimes it's the friend with a really high alcohol tolerance that keeps their cool pretty well, but you didn't even know that they had 8 beers before they came out with you, kind of thing. It's just kind of quiet, and it doesn't always look as capital A addiction as you think it would.
Totally. If you could speak to someone who's in their darkest days right now with their addiction, what would you say to them?
Coming from someone who has been there and also had family members be there, it can get better. You just have to admit that you need help. And I feel like I don't think that there is a single person out there that doesn't have one person in their corner. And I feel like all you need is just one good supportive person to really, help you get out of that dark time. Community is really important. Friends are really important. Family can be very important if you want them to be. They don't have to be. That's everybody's choice. But I think that it is very important just to recognize that you're not alone.
Yeah, a lot of people super duper feel alone, and you'll be surprised when you reach out your hand how many people are waiting to grab it.
Yeah, for sure. Even if you think that, like, there is genuinely nobody, you never know.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining me today. It's been really nice to be able to talk to you.
For sure, Early. Thank you for having me.
Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.
Self-Medicating.